Welcome back to the Pop Culture Discussion. I am your host Robert, and today we're looking back to last year with a tier ranking of all the video games that I played in 2023. Now to explain how my tier list works, I have S for sensational. These are the games that were literally perfect in my eyes. I might have had some nitpicks here and there, but because the rest of the game is so damn good, those nitpicks don't really bother me enough to take points off of the final score for me. I have A for almost perfect. These are the games that were basically the same as S, but the nitpicks I have with these ones, I'm like, nah, there's enough here for me to just take off a little bit and move you guys down to an A ranking. B is for better than you'd think. These are for the games I had a lot of fun with, but they clearly have a bunch of stuff wrong with them, but they're still pretty great. C is for could have been better. These are the games that I played and I was like, yeah, it was alright. I guess it could have been better. There's got a chunk of stuff wrong with it. D is for did this have to get made? These are for these games and I'm like, what a waste of my time. Why did this even get made, honestly? And then E is for everything about this sucks. These are for the games that I hated and I didn't even finish because they were so bad.
If you want to see more detailed reviews on anything on this list, feel free to check out my Instagram, the Pop Culture Reviews. That's all in one word for written reviews on literally everything I'm going to be talking about today.
Before I jump into my tier list, I just want to show you these 6 games here. These were the games that I unfortunately, for one reason or another, just wasn't able to play last year. I either didn't have the time, I couldn't find them, they came out the same time as another game. They were absolutely games I really wanted to play, but yeah, last year, unfortunately no time for them. So without any further ado, let's get on with the ranking. On January 24th, I finished Forspoken. This is an absolute mixed bag of a game for me. I know when it came out, everybody hated it. No one had anything positive to say about it. But for me, personally, I thought the traversal was really fun. And the combat, as insanely simple as it was like super flashy and really destructive. And I did find that really fun to just enjoy. So exploring the map and killing enemies, this game was pretty decent for me, but everything else about it was just really bad. The story was skippable, it was lame besides a final twist at the end, which was kind of fun. The world building had potential, but they did like nothing with it. All the characters were so forgettable, and then the main character was so unlikable and annoying, and you just wanted her to shut up because everything that came out of her mouth was just so cringeworthy. And then the graphics were a bit of a mixed bag to the point where I'm like, this is a next-gen game, are you serious? Like, a PS4 could run this, why is it not on PS4? It was all over the place. And I remember reviewing it on this channel, I was trying to be really positive with it and saying, nah, it is worth playing, guys, check it out. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've compared it to other games, I'm like, oh yeah, nah, it's pretty rough. So, yeah, did it have to get made? Probably not. On February 10th, I finished Hogwarts Legacy. This game made me appreciate Harry Potter. Honestly, this game was just incredible. It was so immersive. I got so lost in the world, building the best combos for spells against enemies, flying around on your broom. The graphics are just incredible. Just doing side missions for characters felt so personal, and the threat of the main mission felt pretty intimidating. There's some epic set pieces here, some really cool fights. It's really flashy. I remember going into this game being really disappointed that it wasn't 2-player because I was like, this game would have been so much better multiplayer. But after playing it, I was like, no, this game works really well as a single-player experience for me. I feel like they relied a bit too heavily on the spiders in this. If you've got arachnophobia, you might struggle to play this. There's a lot of levels you gotta fight spiders and it's pretty gross and they're pretty creepy and they jump at you and it's woof. But besides from that, this is honestly one of the best fantasy magic games I've played for a while. I just loved exploring the world and just walking through the castle and taking it all in was just spectacular. And because of that, this game is sensational for me. On April 19th, I played Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores. Love the world building of Horizon, I love the combat. The graphics are just incredible. Some of the best graphics on the PS5 come from the Horizon series. And this DLC is the best Horizon has ever looked. Not only the world and the detail they've put into it, but the boss battles. The boss battle at the end of this is the best boss battle in all of the Horizon series, in my opinion. And the new weapon that you get a few new things in this, but the main new weapon you get is basically like a gun that's just attached to your fist. And like, it's just really cool to have Aloy with a gun instead of just like a bow and arrow. So that was really fun. I had a really, really good time with this. It was a bit too short in my opinion, and the villain felt way out of place. He was this evil mustache twirling villain, and everything is really serious in the Horizon game. So having this super goofy villain as the main baddie for this just felt so out of whack. And then Aloy building a relationship with a character that she spent barely any time with. I don't know, it felt kind of forced. This is still so much fun to play, and it's almost perfect. On April 28th, I played Star Wars Jedi Survivor. That combat is really fun, and the set pieces when you're just fighting is really fun too. There's some cool boss battles here as well. I really enjoyed the story more this time around from the first story, and the character arcs were really great too, especially for Cal Kestis. His arc was fantastic, but just the amount of puzzles and the difficulty, and the map is horrendous. You get lost on planets so easily, and the map is no help. It probably makes things worse, if anything. It's honestly one of those games, for everything it did good, it did something equally as bad, and it equals out to what could have been better for me. On May 17th, I played Lego 2K Drive. This is basically Mario Kart in a couple of small open worlds, all Lego. And so the worlds are destructible because it's Lego. You can build your own cars, and that is so much fun. I spent a lot of time in the garage building my own cars from scratch, or you can just grab a car, start pulling it apart, and keep bits of that car, and then build your own car basically around and on top of it. That's really fun too. The races are super epic. They're crazy fast. You've got some sick boosts, some really easy drift, and multiplayer on here is really fun. I played a lot of these races with my fiance. We had a lot of fun, not only racing each other, but racing the AI. But speaking of the AI though, they are tough, as you are winning these races by milliseconds when you do win. For me personally, I was like, this is kind of challenging. This game's rated G, and I'm an adult struggling to barely win this. How the hell are kids meant to play this game that is very clearly aimed for children by looking at the cutscenes and the world building and the writing and all of that? It just felt out of place. And there's microtransactions here too. That should be illegal in G-rated kids Lego games. Like, come on, man. That is just bad. I spent like a solid month just racing around doing all the races, finished the story. I had a lot of fun building my own cars, unlocking cars, tracking down and versing all the bosses. But yeah, like I said, if you're a kid playing this, don't buy those microtransactions and get ready to rage quit, because the difficulty is way too high. But at the same time, this game is absolutely better than you'd expect. On June 6th, I played Diablo 4. Oh boy, this is honestly one of my most disappointing pop culture releases of this year. So many things that make Diablo 3 so much fun and so easy to play were removed from this game and replaced with more difficult and more complex setups. And I'm like, why? Why would you change that? Everything is so fast and escalates so quickly in Diablo 3, and everything is so slow in Diablo 4. Moving around the map is slow, leveling up is slow, your attacks are slow, getting back your stamina is slow. I was playing through this entire game with my fiance. We were both running the same character but different builds, and I don't think we got halfway through the game and we just tapped out. We're like, we can't do it. We are just wasting our time. Every time we played this, we got bored so quick. I'm not even kidding when I say this game put us to sleep. We were on the couch playing this game together and both of us fell asleep. The graphics look nicer than the previous game, and the writing's a bit more interesting. The villain is kind of fun, but there's nothing else here that is good, because the gameplay is so bad, and this is a game that relies like 90% on gameplay. Everything about this game sucks. On August 10th, I played Atlas Fallen. My fiance and I decided to pick up Atlas Fallen together and play through that game together, and we had an absolute blast. This was the exact opposite of Diablo. This is definitely a game though that relies on the fact that you're playing it with someone else to have the full experience of the fun provided. Yes, you can play this one single player, but honestly, I feel like playing single player, it'd get pretty dry pretty quickly. It's pretty repetitive, but playing with someone else keeps everything pretty fresh. The story's super basic and forgettable, but that's not really the highlight of the game here. The highlight is the gameplay and the world itself, and exploring the world is so much fun with all your abilities, being able to sand surf, being able to run really quick, being able to jump crazy high, and then the weapons you get when you're attacking. Your builds are crazy. So I would have my build, which was completely different to my fiance's build, and we just had so much fun hunting down and tracking down all the bosses together, and we finished this entire game in a week. That's how much fun we had with it. We just powered through it. So if you have a free week and one of your other friends wants to play it with you, absolutely check this game out because it is better than you'd think. On September 26th, I played Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. So I redid not only the entire story, but I redid the entire map, which I didn't even do on my first save. I did every single mission this time to get ready just before the DLC came out. After that 2.0 update, it saved the game and it's basically reset everything, and every single issue I had with the game doesn't exist anymore, and it's just so much fun to play. The story, the characters, everything was just perfect. The world, it's so immersive. And then Phantom Liberty grabs everything and just dials it up to 11, especially when it comes to the personal relationships you have with characters. They make sure that you build two very, very important relationships with characters in this DLC, and then there comes a point when you're heading towards the end of the story. It was such a shock to the system. I was like, of course, classic Cyberpunk. Everything was going so perfectly, and then they're just like, spanner in the works, we're gonna just ruin this like amazing relationships you've built with these people. I absolutely loved this entire DLC. It was like 30 hours long, so for 28 hours, I was like, this is perfect. There's not a single thing wrong with this. I'm having the greatest gaming experience I've had all year with this game. The graphics are absolutely stunning. This is easily one of the best looking PS5 games, with probably the most immersive world I have ever explored. Not only because of the writing and the characters and the relationships, but because of the gameplay and the weapons and the brutality and the realism of everything. It's honestly some of the smoothest gameplay I've ever played. And then the last 2 hours happened. Everything in my story went sideways so hard and so fast. I hated it so it just broke me. Not only is there a boss battle that was so frustrating and easily the worst boss battle in the game for me, because it was like stealth based and it was so limited. After doing that boss, you were hit with like one of the most depressing endings to the whole game. It honestly upset me that much that I was like, okay, this cannot be an S anymore. But then I look at it and go, there's other options. I play this again, I pick different endings. This is fixable. It's not like it's locked into this is what you're gonna get every single time you play the game. Play the game next time, you do something else. With that mindset, it's bumped it back up to sensational for me. On October 5th, I played Assassin's Creed Mirage. This game does absolutely feel like Assassin's Creed. I like the world, I love the parkour, the stealth's really fun too, but the combat is awful. Some of the worst combat in all of Assassin's Creed. It's that bad that I was like, I miss the combat from the previous couple of games. That is how bad this combat is. When I talk combat though, I'm speaking like sword fighting. The sword fighting is just terrible. If you are stealthing your way through this game and you kind of avoid most of the sword fights, probably not a big deal. But if you're a sword fighter like myself, it's just awful. Having a stamina bar that runs out basically immediately, having limited resources, doing bugger all damage unless you counter, then you like insta-kill, so it's super inconsistent how much damage you do. Yeah, that was just no fun, and that's a huge part of the game for me. So every time I got into a sword fight, I would just roll my eyes and be like, I just want this to be over, I hate this. The combat is not the only bad thing. The story is really short and super forgettable, and they play it so safe. They put barely any thought into it. And then at the end, they try and do this big twist and massive reveal to tie it in with the previous game, and it makes no sense because it just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, what just happened? And the characters are exactly the same. They're all forgettable. There's not a single memorable character in this. I wouldn't say this is the worst Assassin's Creed out there, but it is so far from the best ones. If you haven't played any of the Assassin's Creeds, don't even worry about picking this one up. You have way better games to choose from. And honestly, it could have been better. On October 20th, I played Marvel's Spider-Man 2. This game has not only the best traversal I've ever seen in any video game, but it is a peak PS5 experience. 0 loading screens. You can teleport from any part of the map at any time and you just pop up there. You can switch between Peter and Miles at any time. The story is fantastic. The graphics are awesome. The boss battles are incredible. The combat is a bit of a switch up and I did enjoy it. But for some reason, I just didn't feel anywhere near as powerful as I did in the first game. Maybe they've just depowered you a bit, or they've made the enemies stronger, I'm not sure. And they've switched up the gadgets, they've given you less gadgets and they've swapped them out for some powers. And I do like these powers, but I really liked the gadgets from the old games. I honestly cannot wait for them to release the New Game Plus patch for this. I really want to play through it again on New Game Plus. Just having all the abilities from the get-go would be really awesome. And yeah, I got a few little nitpicks here and there, but they are nothing to really take off from the experience for me. So for me, this game is sensational. And on December 12th, I played God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. It's a different take on God of War. Having the roguelike genre introduced to God of War, when you die, you lose everything, you have to start from the beginning and build a new set, and being basically limited to one weapon. Yes, you have all your weapons from the game, but depending on what the first upgrade that you grab for every run that you do, will basically just pimp that weapon out for the rest of the run. And I feel like the story wraps up for Kratos really nicely. It feels like the definitive ending for his story after Ragnarok. It's a really good epilogue. It really brings everything full circle for Kratos. I guess my only nitpick here is that this is hard. This is easily the hardest thing God of War has ever done in a long time. It's really hard to get a good rhythm going because every time you die, you get a different build. So it's a new rhythm, it's a new build, and it keeps things creative, it keeps things fun, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie if I said I wasn't rage quitting on the final boss you ever fight on this, because he killed me a few times and it was really hard. Luckily, I had an absolute beast build by the time I defeated him and I was basically untouchable. But yeah, getting there was rough. For that, I'm giving this an almost perfect. That was all the video games that I played in 2023. Do you agree with my ranking? If you don't, that's all good. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Love to chat to you more about it down there. And let me know if there's any of those games I mentioned first, if any of those are worth playing. I know Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing, but I heard it's a very big game and I was so busy when it came out and I just didn't have the time, unfortunately. But yeah, if you enjoyed this tier ranking list, feel free to check out my other tier rankings I have on my channel already. If you've seen those, feel free to click that subscribe button. We've got more lists filled with my unpopular opinions as usual, and I will see you all in the next video.